On the 22nd of July, Sheffield Cathedral announced that its choir was to close with immediate effect in order to create a new music department and choir that will reach Sheffield's wider mixed urban community. In other words, the current musicians and congregation weren't diverse enough, and they didn't reach an inclusive enough audience. The announcement came as a shock to everyone in the cathedral's community, not least the choir. The statement opened up a Pandora's box of confusion and questions, and the choice to use diversity and inclusion as the reason to close the choir gave fodder to white supremacists and misogynists. Since this initial statement was released, the reasons for closing the choir have either been elaborated upon or they've changed completely. In this video, we'll be asking the question, does closing the choir help or resolve this situation? The first question that arose after this statement was released was, why do you need to close a choir and restart it to reach this wider mixed urban community? Due to all the pandemonium online, the British press was soon hot on the tail of the dean and chapter of the cathedral. Was this just a classic case of internal politics, or was something bigger at play? John Pienaar from the Times Radio gave the Dean of Sheffield, Peter Bradley, the opportunity to clear up some of these conspiracy theories. Listen here to what he has to say.
You talk about increasing diversity. Are you talking about increasing the range of people who might come and join you and sing, or the kind of music that they're going to be giving us?
Well, within the cathedral music tradition, there's opportunities to be singing other sort of slightly wider repertoire, more contemporary repertoire and so on. I think our repertoire had become rather limited. But
well, give me an example. What sort of thing could we look forward to hearing under the new regime that we might not have heard before?
Well, it's not really a new regime, but we've sung very little of the sort of beautiful Anglican Tudor repertory. It's very demanding, it's very beautiful, and we sing some of it, but I want to bring all of it back into use.
So there you have it, a clear reason why Sheffield Cathedral's management have closed its choir. It needs a new choir to sing some contemporary repertoire and the entirety of the Tudor repertory. In the original statement by the cathedral, it was stated that there was an external consultation and review of the music department that helped advise the decision to close the choir. On the 14th of April 2019, the congregation of Sheffield Cathedral were invited to take part in a survey titled Sheffield Cathedral Review of Liturgy and Worship. Let's have a look at what the choir was singing that day. Let's go down the list and have a look at each composer and their dates. First up for the introit we have Thomas Wilkes, then the Mass for 4 verses by William Byrd. We then head over to Belgium for the motet by Orlando de Lassus. For Evensong we have the responses by Thomas Tallis. For the Magnificat and the Nunc we have the Spanish composer Thomas Luis de Victoria. And finally, the anthem, The Lamentations of Jeremiah Part 1 by Thomas Tallis again. Now, something connects all these composers. That's right, all this music was composed during the Tudor period. They aren't all English, but, diversity. The next day, the Times caught up with the Dean to ask him for some more details as to why chapter unanimously agreed to close the choir. Have a look at this quotation. The choir was often singing to an empty cathedral on weekday evenings, and it's very disheartening. We're in the middle of a large urban area, and yet somehow we haven't engaged the wider community. We are committed to cathedral music, but we need to do it in a different way. In response to this, the Save Sheffield Cathedral Choir campaign would like to ask the Dean, what is the comparative attendance of spoken services? Music brings people into the cathedral. How will closing the current choir and starting with a brand new choir next year resolve this? Finally on this, it isn't the role of the choir to increase the number of spectators. They are there to inspire the spectators already present. By closing the choir, the management of the cathedral are seemingly blaming the choir for the lack of service attendance, and in any other business, the congregation could be seen as customers. It is the role of a marketing team to increase the customer base. Customer satisfaction comes with the quality of the product. The combination of liturgy, worship, and music are the product in this situation. And whilst some of the cathedral's congregation have given feedback on this, Dean and Chapter have not used this as a reason to close the choir. Therefore, using the excuse of the choir not bringing more people into the cathedral is void. On the 25th of July, the Daily Telegraph revealed a new excuse for closing Sheffield Cathedral's choir. In the column, the Dean says, "They've not had their membership of the cathedral taken away. They're still valued parts of the community. If we'd felt that there was a really effective way of doing this within the gradual approach to increase choir numbers as well as spectators that we'd tried, we'd be doing it." In other words, the new excuse here is that the choir wasn't big enough. Closing the choir will not help recruitment of choristers. Many cathedrals have widened their recruitment to meet the exciting future of the mixed urban community without disbanding their existing choir. Take a look at Leeds, for example. With all these strange reasons for disbanding the choir floating around on social media and in the press, it was time for the Dean to set the record straight and offer a concise response to the speculations and a more detailed outline of the real reason that management closed the choir. The original statement and subsequent interviews clearly didn't cut it. On Sunday the 26th of July, Peter Bradley made an address in the cathedral's Sunday morning Eucharist. He was on BBC Look North and he was on BBC Radio Sheffield. Now, what would you think if I told you one of the reasons for closing the choir was so that Sheffield Cathedral could have one of the best choirs in the UK?
We want to raise our ambition in singing, so that once again we will be one of the best, if not the best, cathedral choir in the United Kingdom.
One reason given for closing the cathedral choir has been to do with diversity. Diversity is about making as many people as possible feel welcome in your community. I wonder if the cathedral choir feel welcome.
Diversity is about inclusion, and what we're seeking to do is to draw more and more people from the wider city and our community into our life.
What if I told you that one of the reasons for closing the choir was because the cathedral needs to live stream everything?
Peter, why wasn't it an option to revamp the existing choir?
Well, we'd considered that over the last year, and we have over there's been some great people working with us, and we have sort of looked at gradual change. But there's so much that needs to happen. We need to live stream everything. We need to look at when rehearsals happen. We need to look at music in worship in a new way.
How would you feel if I told you that one of the reasons for closing the choir was because Chapter want to include some strings and brass in their services?
And the buildings change all around us as well. I must say, there's a new building popping up every week.
One of our aims is still to get a pipe organ. But what we want to do is we want to do everything we can proper, as well as we can now. We introduce perhaps use of instruments in worship, by which I mean, by the way, strings, brass.
So there we are. On Sunday the 26th of July, the Dean of Sheffield Cathedral told us that Chapter closed their cathedral choir because by having the current one there, the cathedral couldn't be inclusive, it couldn't live stream everything, and it couldn't bring strings and brass into services. Do you think these are valid excuses? Let us know in the comments of this video. To read full statements, rebuttals, and to help our campaign, please head to www.savesheffieldcathedralchoir.co.uk and consider signing our petition. Thank you for watching.